The twin suns of Virelia Prime hung low over the colony's sprawling cities, casting long shadows across the metallic spires and green fields that humans had worked decades to cultivate. From orbit, the planet looked peaceful, almost serene, a perfect picture of life at the edge of the galaxy. But peace, as humans often learned, was fragile. Colonel Mara Quinn stood on the observation deck of the Central Command Hub, staring at the star charts. Her eyes, sharp and gray, traced the paths of distant alien fleets. Normally, she would feel comforted by the patrols from the Galactic Alliance, but now she felt unease, a cold knot tightening in her stomach. "Colonel," said Commander Ilya, Arson approaching with a tablet in hand, "the Alliance fleets have left the sector. All units rerouted to the core systems. No explanation, no backup." Mara clenched her jaw. "So that's it. We're alone." Ilya nodded grimly. "It seems the galaxy abandoned us." The words hit Mara harder than any enemy laser could. Humans on Virelia Prime were frontier settlers, far from the protection of stronger worlds. The Alliance's withdrawal left them vulnerable. Raiders, mercenaries, or worse, could attack at any moment. And if humans were left to defend themselves, it would not be easy. Mara turned away from the display. She walked to the large window overlooking the colony. Smoke rose from the industrial sectors, and below humans moved quickly, unaware of the looming threat. Children laughed as they chased hover gliders through the parks. Farmers tended fields that shimmered with protective energy shields. The life of a frontier colony, fragile and defiant. But defiance was exactly what Mara would need. She walked back to her office, calling up the emergency communication lines. "Alert all colony units," she ordered. "Prepare defenses. I don't care what the Alliance says. If anyone comes here to harm us, we will fight." Her words were firm, clear, human. By the time the first fleet of alien scouts appeared at the edge of the system, the colonists were ready. Not fully, not perfectly, but ready enough to surprise the attackers. The scouts were sleek, black vessels, shaped like jagged shards of stone, and they moved with a speed that made Mara's stomach tighten. They transmitted a message in the common galactic tongue, a message designed to intimidate. "Surrender your world. Resistance is futile." Mara's response was simple. She keyed her communicator and replied, "You will find resistance is human nature." The aliens blinked, if they could blink, and Mara felt a small, grim satisfaction. They had underestimated humans. That would be their first mistake. On the ground, the colony's engineers activated automated defenses. Energy turrets hummed to life, shields glowed along the edges of the cities, and small fighter crafts lifted off from launch bays, piloted by civilians trained in the basics of combat. Humans were not soldiers by trade, not all of them, but they were fighters by necessity. And necessity breeds ingenuity. Mara's own fleet, small but formidable in its own right, took positions in orbit. Each ship was equipped with weapons scavenged, modified, and upgraded over decades of frontier life. They were not the biggest ships, not the fastest, but humans made every advantage count. As the first scout ship entered firing range, a young pilot, Jin Arlo, took his seat in a fighter craft. His hands moved quickly over the controls. His voice crackled through the comms, full of adrenaline. "Targets locked. Let's show them what humans can do." The scout fired first. Energy blasts streaked toward the colony's orbit, aimed to destroy the defensive satellites. But Mara's fleet was ready. Turrets opened fire, intercepting the shots mid-space. One scout was shredded in a cascade of sparks. Another spiraled out of control and collided with a small moon. Humans cheered, on the ground, not because they wanted war, but because survival had always demanded courage. But Mara knew the battle had only begun. The scout fleet was small, A mere advance party. The real threat, the warlike fleet that had sent them, was still out there. Waiting to test human resolve, she turned to Ilya. Get me the council. We need every able mind in this colony to help us prepare. I want strategies, I want plans, I want humans ready for anything. In the council chamber, scientists, engineers, and civilian leaders gathered. Mara laid out the situation clearly. The Alliance had abandoned them, alien raiders were at their doorstep, and survival depended on humans taking the lead. A scientist spoke up nervously. Colonel Quinn, we're just a colony. We don't have fleets large enough to fight them directly. Mara smiled grimly. Then we don't fight them directly. We fight smart. We fight with traps, with ambushes, with the mind and hands we have. Humans are never the biggest, but we are the cleverest. And we never give up. The room buzzed with energy. For the first time since the warning arrived, fear was replaced by determination. Over the next few days, the colony transformed. Engineers reinforced buildings into makeshift bunkers. Civilians were trained to operate emergency turrets. Scout teams mapped out every approach route to the cities. Even children contributed, carrying supplies and monitoring sensors, learning the value of teamwork and courage. Meanwhile, Mara coordinated with Jin and the other pilots. They practiced complex maneuvers using the colony's limited fleet to maximum advantage. Every simulation, every drill, was designed to prepare them for the impossible, surviving against a superior enemy. Then came the first real battle. The alien raiders returned, larger this time, their ships bristling with weaponry, designed to tear through defenses. Mara's fleet engaged them in orbit, dodging, weaving, and striking with precision. On the ground, energy turrets fired relentlessly, shielding civilians from stray blasts. The humans were outnumbered 5-1, but they fought with a ferocity that the aliens did not expect. Jin's squadron led a daring maneuver, splitting the enemy fleet and causing confusion. Mara ordered her ships to take advantage of the chaos, hitting weak points in the alien formation. Explosions lit up space, like artificial stars. Fires burned on the colony's surface, but humans continued to fight, moving quickly to repair damage and protect one another. By nightfall, the raiders were forced to retreat. They left behind wreckage, fire, and the unmistakable evidence of human resilience. Mara watched from the command deck, her face lit by the glow of the stars and burning ships. She knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had abandoned them, yes, but humans had not abandoned themselves. She turned to Ilya. They think we're weak because we're few. They think we'll run. Let them try. Humans don't run. And somewhere deep in the void, the larger fleet watched, its commanders puzzled by the audacity of these humans who dared to fight when everyone else had fled. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. And Virelia Prime, the abandoned frontier, had just discovered the true strength of its people. Humans did not wait for rescue. Humans did not surrender. Humans stood, and the galaxy would soon learn that standing against them was a mistake no one could afford. The sun rose over Virelia Prime, casting golden light over the battle-scarred cities. The smoke of last night's fight still lingered in the air, a reminder of the humans' narrow victory. Mara Quinn walked through the command hub, watching, as engineers repaired damaged systems and pilots prepared their ships. The colony had survived its first test, but Mara knew it was only the beginning. Colonel, Jin Arlo reported, entering the room with a tablet in hand. Scouts report that the enemy is regrouping. They're calling for reinforcements from nearby sectors. We're going to face a much larger fleet soon. Mara nodded grimly. Then we prepare for the impossible. Humans do not surrender because the odds are high. We fight because survival demands it. In the days that followed, the colony transformed into a hive of activity. Civilians became soldiers. Engineers became tacticians. Even children helped, learning how to operate sensors and deliver messages across the city. Every person had a role. Every role mattered. Mara and Ilya worked tirelessly, coordinating defenses both in orbit and on the ground. Small human ships, no bigger than alien fighters, became deadly instruments of strategy. Mara's team used them for hit-and-run, attacks, drawing enemy fire, then retreating before the aliens could respond. One evening, Mara called a meeting of the council. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders crowded into the chamber. Mara's voice was firm. "We are outnumbered. Their fleet is larger, faster, and better armed. But humans have one advantage. We are unpredictable. They will follow patterns, routines. We will break those patterns. We will strike where they least expect us. That is how humans survive." An engineer named Lyra raised her hand. "Colonel, our turrets are powerful, but their shields can absorb a lot of damage. How can we stop them?" Mara smiled. "We don't stop them with force alone. We stop them with cleverness, with traps, decoys, and timing. Humans can think faster than any machine. We will use that." The first test came sooner than expected. Alien scouts appeared near the colony's outskirts, searching for weak points. Jin led a squadron of fighters, weaving through asteroid belts and debris fields. The aliens followed, confident and arrogant. But the humans had prepared. Automated turrets hidden in the asteroid clusters opened fire, catching the aliens off. Guard! Energy nets deployed from the human ships ensnared several vessels, spinning them out of control. A single small human craft, piloted by Jin, executed a daring maneuver, disabling the lead alien ship. The aliens were forced to retreat, their confidence shaken. The humans celebrated, but Mara remained cautious. "This is just a small wave," she reminded them. "The real storm is coming." Meanwhile, scouts patrolling nearby abandoned colonies brought back alarming news. Entire worlds had been deserted. Civilizations had fled at the first sign of danger. Mara listened quietly as the reports came in. "The galaxy thinks it can survive by leaving humans to die," she said softly. More to herself than anyone else. "They think humans are weak. They are wrong." The next few days were spent fortifying defenses and training civilians. Engineers rigged decoy cities with lights and energy signatures to mimic human activity. Fighter pilots practiced aerial ambushes. Civilians learned how to repair turrets quickly and how to evacuate safely. Jin approached Mara during one training session. "Colonel, I've been studying the enemy. They rely heavily on a central command signal. If we can disrupt it, we could scatter their fleet." Mara's eyes lit up. "Then that is our plan. We hit them where it hurts, not where they expect it." The humans launched a daring raid on a nearby alien outpost. A small squadron, led by Mara herself, slipped past the outer defenses. Using cloaked fighters and electronic jammers, they disrupted the outpost's communication systems. Alien ships in the area went into confusion, firing at each other, unable to coordinate. Back at Varelia Prime, civilians watched in awe as news came in. Humans had struck deep into enemy territory and returned, unscathed. Cheers echoed through the cities. Humanity, so often underestimated, had proven once again that courage and cleverness could overcome brute strength. The raid also had a strategic impact. Nearby alien forces began to hesitate, unsure of what humans might do next. Mara knew this. Hesitation could buy precious time. But not all humans were confident. Some scientists feared the next attack might be too large to handle. "Colonel, they will return with a fleet twice this size," one warned. Mara looked out at the colony, at the people who had become soldiers in just a few days. "Then we fight twice as smart. Humans are not the strongest, but we survive because we adapt, we learn, we never give up." As predicted, the aliens returned. This time, their fleet was massive, a shadow stretching across the stars. But the humans were ready. Mara's ships, led the attackers into the asteroid belts, where hidden turrets and mines awaited. Explosions lit up the darkness. Alien ships crashed into asteroids, caught in traps, or hit by energy nets. The humans used their smaller size to maneuver quickly, striking at weak points, then disappearing before the aliens could respond. Jin's squadron performed daring hit-and-run maneuvers. His voice came over the comms, full of excitement and determination. "They can't catch us! Keep moving! Watch their flanks!" On the ground, civilians operated emergency turrets and repaired damage under fire. Families worked together, showing the kind of courage and resourcefulness that no alien could anticipate. By nightfall, the alien fleet was forced to retreat once again. They had learned a harsh lesson. Humans were not easy prey. The colony had survived, and the humans had proved that ingenuity and courage could match even superior firepower. Mara gathered her team afterward. "Remember this," she said. "Every time they underestimate us, we survive. Every time they attack, we adapt. That is what it means to be human. And no matter how many enemies come, we will stand." The victory also drew attention across the galaxy. Other species, watching the broadcasts and reports, were stunned. Humans, a small colony at the edge of space, had held their ground against impossible odds. Some began to reconsider their alliances and their assumptions about humans. For Mara, there was no time to celebrate. She knew the enemy would return, stronger and smarter. But she also knew one truth. Humans were unpredictable, creative, and brave. And those traits could turn the tide of any battle. In the quiet moments before sleep, Mara looked out at the stars. Somewhere in the vastness of space, the larger alien fleet was plotting its next move. But Mara felt a quiet confidence. Humans had something that machines, aliens, and fleets could not match: heart, courage, and ingenuity. The galaxy had abandoned them. The Alliance had left them alone. But humans, Mara thought, did not abandon themselves. They adapted. They fought. They survived. The colony of Verelia Prime had begun to recover from the last attack, but there was no time to rest. Mara Quinn stood in the command hub, watching as new reports streamed in. The humans had survived, yes, but the galaxy was still a dangerous place. Other worlds had been abandoned, colonies left defenseless, and Mara could not ignore their cries for help. "Colonel," Jin Arlo said, stepping up beside her, "Scouts found a transmission from an abandoned colony in the next sector. They are surrounded by raiders. They need help." Mara's jaw tightened. "Then we go. Humans don't wait for rescue. We rescue ourselves and others." Within hours, a small fleet of human ships lifted off from Verelia Prime, sleek fighters and medium-sized vessels ready for action. Mara led the fleet herself, her presence a symbol of determination. Civilians waved from the launch bays, some joining the effort, others cheering their departure. The journey through the void was tense. Mara reviewed intelligence reports, planning every move carefully. The abandoned colony, called Creighton 4, was small but still inhabited. Civilians had barricaded themselves in the main city, terrified of the alien raiders surrounding them. As the human fleet approached, Mara's mind worked rapidly. She needed a plan that would protect the civilians, defeat the raiders, and ensure her fleet survived. She turned to Jin. "Jin, take the fighters and draw them out. Lure them toward the asteroid field. I'll bring the main ships behind for support." Jin grinned. "Sounds dangerous, Colonel." Mara gave him a sharp look. "Dangerous? Yes. Impossible? No. Humans survive impossible." The fighters streaked forward, like silver streaks across the dark void. The alien raiders took the bait, chasing the humans into the asteroid field. Mara's fleet waited behind, ready to strike. As planned, hidden turrets and energy nets in the field disabled several, raiders spinning them into the asteroids. The humans struck with precision, and the alien fleet panicked. Below, the civilians on Cridon 4 watched as strange lights danced across the sky. They had lost hope, believing no one would come to save them. Then they saw the humans, ships maneuvering with impossible speed, energy beams disabling the enemy, and in the lead, the figure of Mara Quinn, steady, confident, human. Cheering erupted from the city. Hope returned where despair had ruled. The aliens tried to regroup, but Mara anticipated every move, using a combination of ambushes, feints, and careful timing. The humans defeated the raiders without losing a single civilian. When the last enemy ship was disabled, Mara signaled the retreat. The humans had won another victory. Back on Cridon 4, civilians swarmed the streets. They were amazed, but also cautious. "Who are you?" one elderly woman asked, tears in her eyes. Mara smiled softly. "We are humans. We fight when no one else will. You are safe now." It was not just a rescue mission. It was a statement. Humans were no ordinary species. They were clever, brave, and unyielding. They could stand against forces that others would flee from. Meanwhile, word of human victories began to spread across the galaxy. Minor alien factions watched in shock as humans defended abandoned colonies, outmaneuvered larger fleets, and showed no fear. Their reputation grew rapidly. Aliens who had once ignored humans now took notice. Some even began sending quiet messages, of curiosity, others of alliance. Back on Varelia Prime, Mara convened the council again. Scientists, engineers, and pilots crowded around a hollow map of the sector. "The galaxy thought we were weak," Mara said. "They left us to die. But we've shown them what humans can do. We fight with intelligence, with courage, and with unity. And we save those who cannot save themselves. That is what makes us human." Lyra, the engineer, nodded. "Colonel, these rescues are inspiring. Other colonies are asking for help. They want to join our effort." Mara's gray eyes shone with determination. "Then we will help them. Every abandoned colony we save strengthens us. Every person we rescue becomes part of the human stand. And the galaxy will see that humans are not just survivors. They are leaders." As the humans prepared for the next mission, they encountered an unexpected challenge: distrust. Many alien refugees had learned to fear humans, expecting aggression. They had seen countless species conquer weaker worlds, and humans' sudden heroism made them wary. One refugee, a small alien named Vaxel, approached Mara. "Why do you help us? Humans are far from home. Why risk yourselves?" Mara crouched slightly to meet his gaze. "Because no one should fight alone. Because when others flee, humans stand. And because helping others is the only way to survive together." Vaxel studied her, then nodded slowly. "I do not understand humans, but I will follow you." It was a small victory, but significant. Trust was being built, and for Mara, trust was as important as weapons or tactics. Humans could not fight alone forever. They would need allies. The next weeks were filled with missions to abandoned colonies. Each rescue mission revealed more about the galaxy's fragility. Entire worlds had been deserted, populations left vulnerable. And each time, humans struck with skill and precision, saving civilians, disabling raiders, and proving their resilience. During one mission, Jin discovered something alarming. A massive fleet, far larger than any humans had faced, was moving toward the sector. Mara studied the readings carefully. "They know we exist," she said grimly. "They've underestimated us so far, but not for long. The real challenge is coming." The humans had no illusions. This fleet could crush them if they faced it head-on. But Mara did not fear it. She had seen what humans could do. She had seen civilians become fighters, engineers, become tacticians, and pilots perform impossible maneuvers. Humans thrived in impossible situations, and this fleet, no matter how large, would face the full force of human ingenuity. the humans made one final preparation before the confrontation. Colonists and rescued refugees worked together to fortify key positions. Ships were repaired, weapons upgraded, and new strategies rehearsed. Mara trained her leaders personally, emphasizing clever tactics, rapid adaptation, and coordinated strikes. When the massive alien fleet finally appeared on the sensors, the humans were ready. Mara's plan was bold. They would not engage directly. Instead, they would divide the enemy, use decoys, ambushes, and guerrilla maneuvers to strike where the aliens were weakest. The battle began with the humans leading small groups of fighters into the enemy formation, feigning weakness. The aliens fell into the trap, chasing the apparent escapees into asteroid belts and around debris fields. Hidden turrets, improvised mines, and energy nets tore through their ranks. On the ground, civilians maintained emergency systems, repaired damaged equipment, and assisted pilots with logistics. Everyone had a role. Everyone mattered. Jin led a daring strike against the enemy's flagship. Maneuvering through dense fields of asteroids, he found the enemy's weak points and targeted them with precision. The flagship began to falter, its shields flickering. Mara coordinated with him, directing other ships to exploit the confusion. The alien fleet, large and confident, began to scatter. The humans had done the impossible again, outsmarting a superior force. When the battle ended, the humans had won, though not without sacrifice. A few ships had been lost, and some pilots were injured. But the victory sent a message across the galaxy. Humans were forces to be reckoned with. As Mara looked at the fleet, at the rescued colonies, at the civilians who had become warriors, she felt pride. Humans had done more than survive. They had inspired hope. They had challenged expectations. They had shown the galaxy that courage, ingenuity, and unity could defy the impossible. And somewhere in the darkness of space, alien commanders watched in disbelief. Humans were not like other species. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and unyielding. And if the galaxy had abandoned them, it had underestimated a force unlike any it had ever seen. Mara turned to Jin. "We've done well. But this is only the beginning. The galaxy will remember this day, and the humans who fight it will stand as long as it takes." Jin grinned. "Then let's make them remember us." And so, the humans of Virelia Prime continued their journey, rescuing the abandoned, defying the powerful, and proving that when the galaxy turned away, humans would rise. Their courage, ingenuity, and determination had begun to change the galaxy's perception forever. The reports came in fast and urgent. Mara Quinn stood in the command hub, reading the data herself. The rogue fleet they had faced in small skirmishes was just the beginning. The main armada, a force larger than anything the humans had ever encountered, was moving through the sector. Its size alone was enough to make any other species flee, but not humans. "Colonel," Jin Arlo said, his voice tense, "this is no ordinary fleet. They're organized, heavily armed, and coming straight for us. They know about Kryden 4, the colonies we've saved. They're going to try to crush everything we've built." Mara's gray eyes narrowed. "Then we make sure they don't succeed. We've survived worse odds before. We will survive this too." She gathered the council, including her trusted engineers, scientists, and pilots. "The enemy fleet is massive, but they are predictable. Their warlord relies on centralized commands. Disrupt that, and we scatter their forces. We will strike. Smarter, not bigger. Humans always find a way." The humans began preparing for what would become their most daring operation yet. Ships were repaired, weapons upgraded, and energy shields reinforced. Civilians trained tirelessly, learning to operate emergency systems and support the fleet in any way possible. Mara reviewed the strategy with her commanders. "We will divide their fleet into smaller groups, using decoys and ambushes. Our fighters will attack their flanks. Engineers on abandoned colonies will activate hidden turrets and mines. Every human, every ship, every weapon will be part of a single coordinated strike. Jin grinned. This is risky, Colonel, but humans love the impossible. Mara allowed herself a brief smile. Exactly. The fleet left Virelia Prime, moving cautiously through asteroid belts and dark voids, avoiding detection. Mara knew the rogue warlord would not underestimate humans a second time. They would expect an attack, and humans had to be ready for counter-moves. Their first engagement came near a cluster of small moons. A detachment of the enemy fleet appeared suddenly, expecting a direct fight. Instead, Mara's forces lured them into the asteroid fields. Hidden turrets, camouflaged mines, and sudden human strikes caught them off guard. Several enemy ships were destroyed before they even realized what was happening. Meanwhile, Mara herself piloted a medium-class ship at the center of the fleet, coordinating attacks, communicating with Jin and the other leaders, and observing enemy movements. Every decision had to be precise. Every maneuver could mean life or death. On the ground, rescued colonies activated hidden weapons and energy shields. Humans coordinated attacks from space and surface simultaneously. Civilians who had once been farmers, engineers, and teachers now fought as part of a united front. Their determination astonished Mara. Humans were not only surviving, they were thriving under pressure. The rogue fleet, frustrated by repeated ambushes, finally revealed its warlord's flagship. Massive, imposing, and bristling with weapons, it became the target of human focus. Mara knew she could not destroy it directly. It was too powerful. But she could weaken it. Jin and a squadron of elite pilots executed a daring maneuver, weaving through enemy defenses to target shield generators and weapon systems. Mara's fleet followed, striking critical points with precision. Slowly, the flagship began to falter, its once impenetrable defenses showing cracks. As the flagship struggled, Mara sent in another wave of fighters. They used electronic jammers to confuse the enemy's sensors, forcing alien ships to fire at each other. Chaos erupted among the rogue fleet. Mara had predicted it perfectly. Humans had once again turned numbers into weakness. During the battle, Mara noticed a distress call from one of the colonies they had rescued earlier. A group of civilians and allied aliens were under attack from remaining raider ships. Mara ordered a detachment of human fighters to intervene. Jin led the squadron, executing precise strikes to protect the colony while maintaining pressure on the rogue fleet. In the chaos, Mara made a bold decision. She ordered the deployment of experimental energy nets and decoy ships. These ships simulated the signatures of larger human vessels, tricking the enemy into overextending their fleet. The rogue fleet fell into the trap completely. Mara's forces struck from multiple angles, exploiting the confusion. The flagship, weakened and vulnerable, attempted to retreat. Mara saw her chance. She directed her best ships to cut off its escape path, while Jin prepared for a final strike. With synchronized maneuvers, human fighters disabled the flagship's engines and weapons, forcing it into surrender mode. Across the galaxy, reports spread quickly. Humans had defeated the rogue warlord's main fleet using strategy, ingenuity, and courage, rather than sheer force. Alien species, who had previously abandoned or underestimated humans, were forced to rethink their assumptions. Humans were not just survivors, they were leaders and warriors, unlike any other. Mara did not allow herself to celebrate. The galaxy was still dangerous, and more challenges awaited. But the humans had proven something important. They could stand against overwhelming odds and emerge victorious. In the aftermath, the rescued colonies began rebuilding. Humans coordinated relief efforts, sharing technology, resources, and knowledge. The rescued alien populations started to trust humans, understanding that their intentions were not conquest, but protection. Jin approached Mara, exhausted but exhilarated. "Colonel, we actually did it. We turned the tide. Mara shook her head. We didn't turn the tide alone. Every human, every civilian, every rescued person played a part. This is how humans fight, together, smart, and fearless. Her words spread through the colonies, inspiring hope and determination. Humans had not only survived, they had become a symbol of courage, ingenuity, and the indomitable spirit of their species. Yet Mara knew the galaxy would not forget this display of human strength. Some would come seeking alliance, others seeking revenge. Humans had changed the balance of power simply by refusing to accept defeat. The rogue warlord, humiliated and weakened, retreated into the outer sectors. Mara knew he would not surrender forever. He would return, and next time the stakes would be even higher. But Mara also knew humans would be ready. They had proven their ingenuity, courage, and ability to adapt. No fleet, no warlord, no galaxy could intimidate them when humans stood united. As Mara looked out at the stars from the command deck of her ship, she felt a sense of quiet pride. Humans had done the impossible. They had turned despair into hope, weakness into strength, and isolation into unity. Somewhere beyond the stars, other species were watching. They saw what humans could do when abandoned, underestimated, and pushed to the edge. They saw humans fight not just with weapons, but with heart, mind, and spirit. Mara turned to Jin. The galaxy will remember today. And when it does, humans will be the ones standing. Jin nodded. Then let's make sure they remember us well. Mara smiled, her resolve stronger than ever. Humans had turned the tide, but the war was not over. The galaxy still had challenges, threats, and unknown enemies. But one truth remained. When humans stood together, they were unstoppable. The void of space was silent, vast, and intimidating. Mara Quinn stood on the bridge of the human flagship, her eyes fixed on the sensors. The rogue warlord's ultimate fleet had emerged from the outer sectors, more massive and more dangerous than anything the humans had faced. "This is it," Jin Arlo said quietly, standing beside her. His usual grin was replaced by a look of grim determination. "The fleet we've been preparing for. All at once." Mara nodded. "Every human we've trained, every colony we've rescued, every plan we've made, it all comes down to this. Humans don't surrender. Humans fight. And today, we will show the galaxy why." The fleet ahead was enormous. Thousands of warships forming a black wave across the stars. Mara studied the enemy's formation. They were organized, disciplined, and powerful. Most species would have retreated in fear. Humans did not. Humans stood. She turned to her commanders. "We divide their fleet, confuse their signals, and strike at their weaknesses. Precision, speed, courage. That is how humans win." The plan was daring. Mara's flagship led the main fleet, but several smaller human groups would act as decoys, drawing portions of the enemy away. Hidden colonies would activate mines, turrets, and energy nets at key moments. Human pilots would use agility and cunning to outmaneuver the heavier, slower enemy ships. Jin's squadron was first. He led a fleet of fast fighters into the enemy lines, performing daring maneuvers that the aliens could not predict. The enemy fired but missed again and again, distracted by the decoys and chaos. Mara's ships followed, striking critical points identified by scouts. Energy beams hit engines, shields flickered, and confusion spread through the rogue fleet. Mara smiled grimly. Humans thrived in impossible situations. On the ground, colonies and rescued aliens watched in awe as human ships engaged the enemy. Civilians who had once fled from fear now operated defense systems, assisted in communications, and guided fighter squadrons. Humanity's courage was not limited to space. It extended across every world they had saved. The rogue warlord, the flagship, massive and heavily armed, emerged from the enemy formation. It was the heart of the fleet. Destroy it, and the enemy might retreat. Mara knew it would not be easy. The flagship's weapons were powerful, its shields nearly impenetrable. But humans had something the warlord could not anticipate: ingenuity and determination. Jin led a strike team targeting the flagship's shield generators. His squadron weaved through enemy defenses, dodging lasers and missiles. "Hold steady!" Jin's voice crackled through comms. "Aim for the weak points." "Mara marked!" Explosions erupted across the flagship as generators failed. Its shields flickered, and Mara seized the opportunity. Her flagship and the main fleet attacked with precision, coordinated with the decoy groups. The massive warship could no longer defend itself from multiple angles. Chaos spread across the rogue fleet. Their formations broke apart. Confused ships collided, fired on one another, or were caught in energy nets. Mara's strategy worked perfectly: divide and conquer, yet the humans did not rely on brute force alone. Mara had planned a final surprise. Using small, fast ships carrying experimental devices, they disrupted the enemy's central command signals. Alien ships lost coordination, turning their strength into weakness. Humans exploited the confusion with speed, agility, and cunning. The midst of battle, Mara received a transmission from one of the rescued colonies. "Colonel Quinn, thank you. You saved us." She replied simply, "We all fight together. Humans do not abandon each other." Jin's squadron approached the flagship for the final strike. "Colonel, we can finish it now," he said. "Do it," Mara ordered. With synchronized attacks, the flagship's engines failed completely. Its weapons offline, it had no choice but to surrender. Mara's fleet held position, ready to prevent any further attacks. The rest of the rogue fleet, leaderless and confused, retreated into the void. The battle was won. Humanity had faced an impossible enemy and emerged victorious. The galaxy had watched in awe. Humans, the species abandoned and underestimated, had stood against overwhelming odds, and they had prevailed. Mara gathered her fleet and addressed the colonies. "Today, we have not only defended ourselves, we have shown that humans fight with courage, ingenuity, and heart. We save those who cannot save themselves. We do not run, and we do not surrender." Her words inspired hope across the galaxy. Minor alien factions, once skeptical, now sought alliances with humans. Colonies that had been abandoned now looked to humans for guidance and protection. Mara had not only won a battle, she had changed the perception of humanity forever. Jin approached her, exhausted but exhilarated. "Colonel, the galaxy will remember this. They can't ignore humans now." Mara shook her head, looking out at the stars. "It's not about being remembered. It's about standing for what is right. The galaxy abandoned us, but we never abandoned anyone else. That is what makes humans different." Across Viewership Prime and the rescued colonies, celebrations erupted. Civilians, pilots, engineers, and soldiers all rejoiced. They had survived the impossible, defended the helpless, and shown that courage and ingenuity were more powerful than numbers and weapons. Yet Mara remained vigilant. The rogue warlord had been defeated, but threats would continue. Mara knew that humans could face any danger, adapt to any situation, and survive where others would fail. Humanity's spirit was stronger than any fleet, more resilient than any machine. In the quiet of the command deck, Mara reflected on everything that had happened. Humans had been abandoned by the galaxy, left to defend themselves against forces far larger and more powerful. Yet they had fought. They had saved colonies. They had protected civilians. And they had won. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again. Somewhere far away, alien leaders took notice. They realized that humans were not just survivors, they were protectors, warriors, and leaders. Their ingenuity and bravery were unmatched. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had become a symbol of hope and resilience. Mara turned to Jin. The galaxy will know our name, but more importantly, they will know what humans stand for. Jin nodded. Courage, ingenuity, and never giving up. Exactly, Mara said. And as long as humans stand, the galaxy will remember that when everyone else ran, humans stood and fought. And so, humanity's legend grew. Colonies rebuilt stronger, alliances were formed, and the rescued worlds flourished under the protection and guidance of humans. Mara and her fleet continued to patrol the sector, ready for any threat. The galaxy had abandoned them once, but humans had risen, not just to survive, but to lead. Their courage, ingenuity, and heart had changed the fate of countless worlds. Humans had proven that when the galaxy turns its back, they do not falter. They fight, they save, they stand.